This is Buds and Blue Jays. And now your hosts, Riley McConnell and Jesse Burrell.
Good evening, everybody. It is Sunday, September 8th, and welcome to episode 210 of Buds and Blue Jays. It's your place for all things related to the Toronto Blue Jays. Jesse Burrell, joined as always by Jesse Turiso, and today on the show, we're going to recap the series against our quote-unquote natural rival, the Atlanta Braves, and what a series it was as the Blue Jays won, or the Blue Jays only won one out of the three. Atlanta needed these wins a little bit more than we did, and in fact, so much happened in this series, we needed to call up a special guest. So we've called up our friend, Andrew Phillips, co-host of the Coach's Sons podcast, an overall good guy, a passionate Atlanta Braves fan, and just like us, he's a self-proclaimed terrible golfer, so you will fit right in quite well on the show. Andrew, my guy, how are you? Welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
You know what? I'm actually in a lot better spirits than I was a few hours ago when it looked like we were going to lose twice. So feeling good. So thank you guys for having me. It's an honor to be on the show with you guys.
Not a problem. We got a lot to get to on this episode. And Jesse said, yes, we're absolutely glad to have you on the show. I was thinking as the series was getting started, the Atlanta Braves and the Toronto Blue Jays, they don't get to play each other too often, but the Blue Jays have actually had a little bit of good run of success against the Atlanta Braves. I remember last season, we actually swept you guys in Toronto, which was probably the funniest part of our season because we were bad last year too, even though we went to the playoffs and all that stuff. So I was kind of coming in here thinking this makes no sense, but baseball doesn't make any sense. So we'll kind of go in there. And on the field, hey, the Blue Jays, we're a middle of the pack offense. The Atlanta Braves, hey, they're a middle of the pack offense. Neither of our teams steal bases ever. I thought, hey, maybe it's going to be similar. And then you look at literally any pitching category and Atlanta's way up here and the Blue Jays are way down here. So maybe that's why you guys are fighting in for a playoff spot while we're kind of sitting at the bottom there. But it was a very entertaining series and, I'm rooting for your Atlanta Braves a little bit.
I mean, it's our boys definitely came out and pitched well. Fried looked really good in game one, and obviously Sale has been a monster all year. So those guys are literally him and Lopez. Those guys and Lopez are just taking the team on their backs because our offense, other than Ozuna, and then maybe someone will pitch in now and again, is doing anything offensively. So I'm glad we have them because if not, we just be waving the Mets as they pass us by. So it's a good thing that we have them.
All right, we will touch in a little bit more on that on this series. But first, Andrew, and I want to get Jesse involved a little bit here too. I'm going to ask you the same question we asked your co-host Chris when he came on the show when he first got on here, is I want you to give your outside perspective on what the hell happened with the Toronto Blue Jays this season from the outside looking in, because us and our listeners, we've been riding through this. We know the story, but I want to hear it from you from the outside looking in. What's your take on how the Blue Jays have done this year?
It's interesting. I when you think of baseball teams that seem to just be really good at underperforming, it's the Blue Jays, unfortunately.
Great,
you guys have all this potential. You have all this pedigree too, right? I mean, you guys have the most coaches' sons or former player sons that was a reference I shouldn't have made, but you have so many guys that my dad played ball, right? And we took one of them, or we now have one of them because we're so hurt, but so you hear all this pedigree, you hear all this potential, and you think that they're going to come out and they're going to figure it out one year, and it's an injury or it's someone going cold, and you guys just don't seem to get to that level. I do think your pitching, for the most part, is obviously your biggest problem.
Understandable.
It's one of those things. Hopefully Gausman figures it out, and he just hasn't. I know he didn't look great against us. He didn't have his splitter early. That's why we were able to really get into him in game one. And from what I can tell, that's been the problem all year, right? And it's just like you just can't pitch. And in this league, if you can't pitch because it is a hitter's league now, then you're just not going to play ball, right? And so you have all this great potential, but all that is on the offensive side, and offense doesn't carry you throughout the entire year. You have to be able to throw strikes and you have to be able to get people out, and you guys just can't do it. So that's my perspective. It feels like it's a waste. I genuinely thought you guys were going to be sellers. I thought you were going to just like, all right, screw it. Let's just get rid of people and let's just start over. And you didn't, which is surprising.
Us too.
And so, I guess you're going to run it back again. But at this point you go, well, you can't be positive. It's not wasted talent anymore. You know what the team is at this point, and that's middle of the road, unfortunately. So you're going to have to make some big moves for you guys to really be competitive.
Jesse, do you agree with that assessment that Andrew just gave us?
I couldn't say it better than myself. Like I was saying when we were doing the deadline, I was ready to just do the fire sale, maybe keep 1 or 2 players, and then see what we have. But now it's just like how people are now talking about possibly getting up all these big names and backup plan if we don't get Soto. I'm like, here we go again. Let's track some planes and see what happens.
I am very excited to track Juan Soto's plane from the Dominican this year, so we can do that. But go ahead, Andrew.
Do you guys think your injury to Bichette threw a wrench in you guys actually selling the farm? Because I mean, he was a part of a lot of those conversations. Got hurt right before right around the All-Star break. Do you think that's really why it didn't happen? Because that was a part of the plan, and then that fell apart, and then nothing seemed to be a good idea, or do you think they never intended to do it?
Nah, Bo wasn't having a good of a season before he got hurt. Now, maybe he was not having a good season because he was hurt. Like, you could make the argument there. Right. But I think if Bo Bichette's having a good season, the Jays aren't even in a question of being sellers or anything like that. And the Blue Jays are a very value-minded organization. They're not going to sell low on a player when they have the chance to, hey, he gets hot and we can sell next year, and maybe to a fault. But that's why they didn't do it. I think Orelvis Martinez was the big one. I think they really wanted to trade him, and his suspension caused a wrench into things. But we've mentioned that on the show before.
Couldn't say better either. Yeah, definitely. As we know, there was 2 untouchables, but one of the players wasn't named Bo, so there's that. And also, again, like the Orelvis, we probably could have got a haul for him if he wasn't suspended, and then we did sell high on certain players like IKF, Turner, and that, because since they've joined their new teams, they haven't performed. So we're our farm system of reaping the rewards in that sense. So
yeah, ask Chris how Jimmy Garcia is looking for them. Because he's not looking so hot over there. Anyways, boys, 7 minutes into the show.
Try not to Chris.
Sorry.
I try not to talk about Chris.
There you go. 7 minutes into the show here. Let's actually dive into this series that was against the Atlanta Braves. And gentlemen, without further ado, Jesse, we'll start with you. Player of the series. Take it away.
As the term I like to say, I'm horny for Horwitz. 4 home runs, you can't do anything better. He's our only spark of offense we've had all series. So it has to be Horwitz. And even a couple of doubles. I wish our whole roster was Horwitz this series, because maybe we would have won more than one game.
Spencer Horwitz, WRC plus on the season now, is up over 130. It is the 3rd highest in all rookies, I believe, in the American League, maybe in general. I saw that up there. It's been quite good for Spencer Horwitz. In fact, in game 2 of this series, when he had the 2 home runs, I really thought he was getting a third that hit off the top of the wall there, ended up for a more extra bases. His 11 total bases in that game set a Blue Jays franchise record for total bases by a rookie, tying Felipe Lopez and JP Arancibia, who, if you remember, had one hell of a Blue Jays rookie debut against Tampa back in 2021. So some great stuff from Spencer Horwitz. 5 RBIs in the series here as well. The one thing with him, he can't really play a good second base defense, as we saw in game 3 here today. And John Schneider had even mentioned earlier, I think a few series ago, that, we're probably done seeing Spencer Horwitz at second base now that Will Wagner's here, Ernie Clement, and Davis Schneider and others can play that position. And then, surprise, surprise, game 3, in a close game, he's at second base and he's making errors. No big deal. But if he's doing that with the bat, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Spencer Horwitz, very clearly our player of the series. Andrew, I'm going to turn it to you. You can take this to a Blue Jays player or an Atlanta Braves player, or you can talk about whatever you want. But who's your player of the series?
I actually wrote down during game 2, who is this Horwitz guy and how is he eating our lunch? Because he only has 11 home runs on the season, or even before that, he had less than 10, right? And he hit 3 against us. And so I was like, I didn't expect for this guy to be the one to take us out. And I think he's obviously the name that sticks out. On our team, when we won, we had guys who we all kind of contributed. I think Kelenic was the one who had the most consistent contributions. He had a few RBIs throughout each game, had a home run today, played good defense as always. So Kelenic might be our MVP, but it doesn't stick out, right? Horwitz is obviously the player of the series. Because I mean, like you said, that all those RBIs, all those home runs, every time he came up to bat, I was like, well, here we go again. I don't, we can't get this guy out. So that's got to be encouraging for you guys. I mean, I don't know. Is this something you have been expected? Is this something you're hoping for? What is this performance? Because I don't feel like this is something we've seen him do often.
All Spencer Horwitz has done throughout his whole major league career is hit. Like if you look at his minor league production, like he's always been more of a doubles, triples guy, but he's even throughout his time in Buffalo. We were actually kind of annoyed early in the season when we're still trying out like Justin Turner and Daniel Vogelbach when we have Spencer Horwitz who's producing in the minors and he got buried. And now it kind of really looks stupid. Why'd we even give these guys this time when Spencer Horwitz was clearly the best answer all along? He's looked pretty good for us, and he's going to be a key part of the Blue Jays next year and going forward. So we're pretty excited on our end for Spencer Horwitz.
Yeah, I mean, as you should be. He definitely looks like he has some talent. Now he has to figure out some defensive things, but like you said, if he can hit the ball hard, who really cares? I think honorable mention. We have to talk about Sale. Sale pitched awesome again. I mean, but that's kind of expected at this point. If you listen to the Coach's Sons podcast, one of the things I've always said about Sale ever since we got him was like, I don't need him to be Cy Young level, because at the time we weren't injured and we were feeling great about, I just need him to be like, a consistent pitcher. Well, he's Cy Young level pitching and has been great all year. And like we said, one of our saving graces. So it's good to see him continue to pitch well. 6 innings, 7 Ks, 2 hits. I mean, that's a hell of an outing. And I think that, Fried had a really good one too, because I think his line was, sorry, I'm looking at it right now. 7 innings, 8 Ks. He had, a run and 5 hits, but he had just as impressive of an outing. So those guys definitely carried us, into the series win. So that's nice to have.
Hey, what's it like having starting pitchers that can just go out and dominate every single day? What's that like? It's great. I'm a lifetime Braves guy, so I have all the 90s, have the Glavins, the Maddox, the Smoltz, right? So I'm like, that you don't always have that. Weird. So there is a little bit of that, but it's losing Strider was a blow because obviously he is top tier talent in the league, and Sale was a mystery coming into the season, so it's been really nice to see him perform because Fried is out. Like as soon as Fried finishes the season, I don't think there's any way we can keep him from a price standpoint, and he's gonna demand top dollar. So it's good to see that Sale will continue to be pretty competitive as a pitcher, for the next couple of years that we have him. And Jesse, we saw a lot of Chris Sale for his time with the Red Sox. I think he spent 5 years there, and he was always the guy with the White Sox who was dominant. And then his time with Boston was just pretty I'm very surprised, actually, Chris Sale turned the clock back at age, 35, and is shoving the way he is this year. It's actually been a wild story. Can he teach something to Jose Brios or Kevin Gausman and get them going again, or maybe even Chris Bassett?
Sure.
Sure. That'd be great. Would be doing us a big favor if you could do that for us. Jesse, turning things back a little to the Blue Jays here, just a few more small hitter standouts that really caught my attention in this series, and some more of our young players that really went off here in the series. Nathan Lucas had 5 hits in the series, 5 for 10 with a walk, 2 strikeouts. Really impressed me. Vlad Jr. only went 2 for 14 in this series, but I've never seen a guy hit more dead line drives right to the center fielder than I saw Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit in this series, and I have a stat on him I want to throw out a little later here. And Leo Jimenez, even though he went 0 for 6 in the series with 2 strikeouts, did have an 11 pitch at bat against Chris Sale today. And if you're like Leo Jimenez, who's only ever going to be a 25, 26 man on your roster, if you can go out against a tough pitcher like that, work an 11 pitch at bat and try to get things over to the bullpen, I think that's a good thing. Those 3, Jesse, did you have a thought on any of those players, or take it to a different player if you'd like to go that route?
No, I definitely have been impressed since Nathan Lucas came up in the Minnesota series. Like he's been consistently doing what he was told to do to make the roster. Even last year he had a hit, but good enough defense. He's doing this with pretty much only one thumb. Like he can barely close his catching hand after he tore that ligament. And I believe if I was looking at the stats right, he's hitting almost 500 since he's joined the Bay Clubs from Buffalo. And yes, he's not the I don't know. I think he's drinking the Vladdy Kool-Aid, same as Horwitz this series, with the power and all that. So, but he's playing solid. Yeah, he had an error, I believe, yesterday in the 9th inning where we almost had the bullpen show up again. So. But he's been solid, and yeah, he's not considered a kid what I've been saying all year, even when Horwitz, I was crying for Horwitz to come up here to the big club. But like he's a 30-year-old, like he's playing probably for his future and not like having to retire because compared to lifelong minor leaguer, he keeps saying that he might find out a spot on like if it's not with the Jays, it could be somewhere else. So I've been impressed since he's come up since Minnesota.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about Nathan Lucas into the offseason here, but even like when the announcers talk Nathan Lucas, they're constantly saying things like, well, he's playing for 29 other teams right now. You never know where he's going to go. Like, why can't the Blue Jays keep this guy, right? We're going to need outfielders. We're going to need guys who can hit. All he's done is hit. He plays a good enough defense. I don't know. Seems odd. We'll talk about that in the offseason here. But let's talk a little bit of pitching before we got a bunch of questions for Andrew here, which I'm excited to dive into and all that stuff. 3 pitchers in the series and 3 of us. And Andrew, we'll give you, as the guest, the choice. Pick a Blue Jays pitcher that started in the series. Yariel Rodriguez, Kevin Gausman, who you already touched a little bit about, and you can expand on him if you want, or Jose Barrios. Pick one and tell me what you thought about their performance here.
I mean, I'll talk about Gausman because that's the one that I think really took me by surprise the most. He just
revenge game for Kevin Gausman, by the way, against Atlanta.
It was a revenge game, which is pretty funny. I think that it's just such a name that you feel like is synonymous with being dominant and being able to figure it out. And it doesn't look like he has it. Like a splitter just wasn't what I remember seeing. And his fastball location was okay, but it was still, the velocity is not really what it always has been, and there's not a lot of movement to it. So I know we jumped on him pretty early and never we didn't get a lot of hits, but we hit it hard, and that's really what matters, right? So I think that's what that stuck out. I mean, Barrios, I think he's solid. I don't think of the 2 other games, I'm like, wow, it was significant to me. So Gausman just kind of stood up because I just have expectations of what this guy's supposed to do, and he didn't hit it. So I think that's the thing that stuck out the most.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. His stuff has been down. I think it's just he's on the wrong side of 30, and father time comes for everybody. And where you usually see it is the movement doesn't come as much, and the velocity is not as much anymore. And all bad signs for Kevin Gausman.
Yeah, I mean it's weird. Like Chris Sale, who's 35, by the way, old man. He just has it's that arm angle, right? It really is. And you're a lefty, you're able to really come at angles that batters aren't used to seeing, and that's really helpful. Gausman just doesn't have any of that. His is just, you see it as soon as it comes out of the hand, you know what's coming, and you're ready to go at it. So it's tough. I mean, want the best for him.
Absolutely. And where he really ran into trouble was that second inning. He walked the leadoff guy, and then a couple ground balls just found holes. And next thing you know, there's a crooked number on the board for Atlanta, right? That's usually how it goes. Jesse, I'll give you the next choice then. Would you like to talk Yariel Rodriguez or Jose Barrios?
I'll take the one I called for last episode. That would probably be the only one to give us one, and that would be Jose Barrios. Yep. And again, another solid 6 innings. I believe it was one hit or one run. I don't have the stats in front of me, but just another solid inning. He's been Mr. Consistent for us. He had that little rough spot, but again, another 6 innings gives us a win. He doesn't miss a start. And it has not shown any signs of slowing down or any fatigue over the season, and even as a J. And lately too, he's been keeping the ball in the ballpark, and when he's good, that's huge for him, especially because he's notoriously giving home runs, and I believe a couple of years ago he gave up the most home runs, and seeing this Barrios is similar to what we were having at the beginning of the year, where us Jays fans, when we had actually a glimmer of hope, was that he could be a Cy Young candidate or even win the Cy Young in the American League with how dominant he was being. So seeing this against a Braves team, yes, it's not the A roster of the Braves with all their injuries, but still to see the dominance he was doing, and then all these other series, I cannot praise reap the rewards we have right now with how dreadful right now our season's been.
I mean, Barrios is your best pitcher, right? I mean, he leads your team in WAR from that side. He leads in ERA. He's not a high strikeout guy, right? So it's not flashy, but he's Old Faithful for you guys. So you gotta give that props, right?
No, exactly.
Go ahead, Jesse.
I was just saying, yeah, exactly. And compare all our other pitchers, the ones we Gausman, bats in that. We're expecting we don't have that confidence. So we're going to win this game. It's almost giving us a feel of that the true ace feel when how you guys probably feel with when you had Strider when he was healthy, or even with Max Fried a few years ago, or even when you had Soroka those few years ago.
Canadian boy, yeah.
I know, you got to show our Canadians, and but just having that dominance, even go in the nights when you have it's a win with Glavin, Maddox, or Smoltz and all that. So Barrios is ours, unfortunately, this year.
Andrew, on your show, you talk a lot about Major League Baseball as a whole. And off the top of your head, who's the two favorites in both leagues for the Cy Youngs right now?
Ooh, I think that. Yeah, I mean it's tough. I mean, so right now it's definitely Sale. I know that I'm a little biased there, but Sale is definitely the one who has been the most consistent from that perspective. I think AL's a little tougher.
Tariq Skubal's probably the favorite right now.
Exactly. No, I'm sorry. I was being sarcastic. Skubal is the runaway. Yeah. Skubal's the runaway. There's not another name I can say that should be in that conversation that's been as consistent and as dominant. The National League has a couple of guys that are there who will be a part of the conversation. Hell, I think Skeens will probably be a part of the conversation too, just because they can't stop talking about him. But no, Skubal is far and away the AL guy, and then I think Sale is the main name right now. So, which is exciting. I mean, 35 years old to win a Cy Young, I'd be interested to see who's the oldest Cy Young. It's probably Greg Maddux or maybe Randy Johnson, because I know he got up in age.
Roger Clemens, maybe.
Also Clemens. Yeah, it's one of those three guys for sure. Yep. But I bet 35 is close to the eldest number for sure.
I bring that up because if you just look at pitcher wins on the season, which is a faulted stat, we know, but hey, Chris Sale, number 1, 16 wins. Tariq Skubal, number 2, 16 wins. Guess who's third on that list? Jose Barrios.
Yeah.
Not bad definitely. For a guy who's on a last place team, a team that does not win many Blue Jays win baseball games at all. And yet he's third in Major League Baseball in wins. In fact, he became the 10th pitcher in franchise history to win 6 straight decisions, did Jose Barrios. And the whole reason behind that is he's top 5 in baseball in run support, which is wild for, again, an offense that is just middle of the pack in baseball. And the one game this series we scored a ton of runs was a Jose Barrios start. So I don't know how he does this magic, but it's been very good. Let's shift gears to the bullpen, and we run through this segment very quick because, as we tweeted out a stat earlier, our bullpen is bad, and that should not surprise anybody.
So bad.
And in this series, no different. Chad Green blew his 3rd straight save in this one, although the defense behind him did kind of let him down a little bit. Zach Poop, as you've been describing him, Jesse, also worked a very stressful extra inning series in this one as well. I wanted to give some shout outs to Tommy Nance and Eric Swanson, who seems to be slowly getting things together, but I don't want to talk much about this pen. Jesse, do you have anything to say about the Blue Jays bullpen in this series?
It can just go down the toilet with Zach Poop.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you call him the blow pin. That made me laugh. The blow pin made me laugh. So sorry.
They're very good. Jesse, out of these 7-8 guys that are currently in the Blue Jays pen right now, are any of them going to be on the opening day 2025 Blue Jays roster next year?
If we don't trade, if they're not traded, the only two I can see would be Swanson and Green, just because of what we one, what we're paying Green, and 2, what we gave up Swanson to get Swanson that, and just knowing what Swanson's gone through this year, it's almost like a write-off season. Yes, it wasn't an injury, but it's more everything behind the away from the field that probably could have been causing all this with what happened to his son in spring training. So those two are probably the only two. Maybe Genesis Cabrera too, just because of he's been one of our most consistent lefties in the pen. So those 3 are probably the only ones I could see coming back, other than the ones that are on the IL that we would also have back.
We're going to spend a lot of time this offseason trying to remake this Blue Jays bullpen, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing stuff like that It's going to be very good. Just a few other random takeaways that caught my attention from the Blue Jays side in this series. I had that fun Blue Jays stats I'll just throw out into the wind here. He has a 1.3 OPS since the All-Star break. Only 2 hitters in Major League history have had a higher OPS post-All-Star break than what Vlad has right now. And tell me if you've heard these names before. Ted Williams and Barry Bonds. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is third on that list. Yeah. So he's been doing some absolute monster things in this series. Will Wagner, too, has quietly really impressed me. I think the upside is way higher than Will Wagner, what we think. He got in against Max Fried, and that lefty-on-lefty curveball that Max Fried throws you has to be terrifying as a left-handed hitter. It probably makes knees buckle more than any other pitch. Will Wagner took it, blooped it into right field for a hit. Very impressive piece of hitting there. I think the upside might be higher than we think. And I wanted to mention Addison Barger in this series as well, who, I have his stats here. 0 for 6, 3 strikeouts. So he didn't hit well with the bat. But he did have the hardest swing, now that StatCats can measure swing speed, that the Blue Jays have had all season. And swing speed can correlate well to exit velocity. And he was posting up things very similar to what Giancarlo Stanton did at his peak. So whenever I see a guy who's able to put that tools together, it makes me feel like there is some very high upside within that player. So I see Addison Barger putting all these tools together and showcasing these flashes, these glimmers of very intense, awesome moments, makes me really think there could be a very, very good player in the bat of Addison Barger, and we just keep seeing these tools. Do either of you guys have a quick thought on those 3 players?
I have like notes from each game, and for game 1, I put down, wait, you guys have Wagner's kid too? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So the Blue Jays just like, wait, your dad played baseball? Come on over here. We'll take you. So, but I thought he looked good. I mean, like you said, the lefty on lefty from Fried it's nasty. Like it's a fun thing to watch, all year, just seeing the lefties go, I don't know what to do with this. So he definitely showed up. I was not too impressed by someone who's 0 for 6. Strikes out a bunch. It's like all or nothing.
Yes.
But I mean, hey, you're finding, you're doing what you can to find positivity, which I love. So I can definitely respect that. So hopefully you get a power hitter out of that. Because I mean, I think from an exit velocity thing, that's a stat that translates, right? But it is something that it doesn't really do much other than he hit it hard. So
who cares how hard you hit it if it's right into the first baseman's glove, right?
Yeah, it must say, or if you don't hit it at all, that doesn't help. So.
Jesse, do you have a thought on any of those players?
Well, it hurts my soul to hear that about Barger, but he's still going to be my future MVP. And
love it. Okay.
Sure.
When he wins it, just remember you heard that here first, everyone.
Okay, I'll keep it in mind, writing it down.
That's right. That'd be great. One other piece of note, too. Joey Loperfido was the only lefty to get the start against Chris Sale, which I thought that was wild. The Blue Jays had 6 lefties on their roster, and the one they chose to put in against Sale was Loperfido. I think that might tell you, 1, that probably because he could play a good center field and they wanted to give Varsho a day. But 2, it might saying something that the Blue Jays still really believe in Joey Loperfido, even though he's striking out 40% of the time. So just had that thought in mind. All right.
He didn't strike out in the game, by the way. Like he was 1 for 3, no K. Right. So good for him.
That's a positive. See, we're all about positivity over on this show here.
I'm here.
Right.
I'm here.
All right, boys. Do you have any other notes on this series before we start going more Braves and more general and some questions we have for Andrew here?
No, I'm good.
Jesse, anything?
Fun.
No, I'm good.
Thanks for letting us win. We appreciate the series W.
No problem. You guys needed this more than I do.
We need it so bad.
Andrew, Jesse and I have come up with some questions, and we figured if we have a Braves fan on the show, we have to talk a little bit of some Blue Jays and Atlanta Braves related things. So we've got some fun ones here we want to throw at you here. And I guess I'll go with the first one, Jesse. You can go after that. But the Blue Jays, the Atlanta Braves, they are very interesting. We've had some mixed players on their team. In fact, Gio Urshela has spent some time with both teams. Jesse Chavez was a Blue Jay for like an hour. He spent some time on both teams. But I mainly wanted to ask you, how is the Whit Merrifield experience going in Atlanta?
Okay, so it's going is the best way I can describe it.
Well, not so much anymore, but yes.
Yeah, it's necessity, right? It's been tough all year to put a bunch of names out there that were just like, I don't want this guy on my roster, but they're starting, and listen, like you got to get guys out there that have to be able to put the bat on the ball. And he has like streaks of, okay, he's he can do it occasionally, but it's nothing that's that you want to be a long-term solution. It's a necessity thing. And that, I mean, no offense, like he's a pro ball player, good for him, but it was one of those things, and it will continue to be like, oh, great, here we go. We have to start Whitfield again. And that's just not a fun thing to say.
Hey, wasn't he hitting second in one of those games there, game one? I'm pretty sure he was up there.
Yeah. Schnick loves, like his favorite thing to do is tinker with the lineup. I mean, he had Soler leading off at one point. Like he just doesn't care. He just like if it's not going well, he's just gonna. I swear he has dice and he just kind of rolls them and goes. And Ozuna is 8th. Okay, next. And so it's just that's just kind of how he rolls. So it's interesting for sure.
That's fantastic. All right, Jesse.
Wish Schneider was like that.
Yeah. John Schneider just waits till you have a good game, and then takes you out of the lineup the next day. But and like no Horwitz in the lineup in game 3. But anyways, Jesse, what's your first question for Andrew here?
I'm going back in time.
Okay.
Was it a triple play?
No.
I don't know, man. We're going back to the 92 World Series for this one.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was a triple play.
I'm going to say no. I don't like talking about the 92 World Series because I'll be honest, it's still painful. It's really funny. You talked about the fact that you guys play us really well. You know that you were on a 9-game winning streak going into the beginning of our series, by the way.
Yes, we mentioned that on our last episode.
Yeah, that sucks. Like we just can't seem to beat you guys. And that includes 92. It's interesting. Like obviously there's a lot of history. Like one of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about, because we have some players, some really prevalent players that played for both teams. Who's your number one that's both a Brave and a Blue Jay? To me, it's super obvious who played on both. Now there's a couple players that played like 1 year, like Jose Bautista had 1 year with us. That doesn't count. Phil Niekro had 1 year with you guys. That doesn't count. But there's one name that played for both that is just that raked on both sides. Who do you think that is?
I think I know it. Well, I was going to say Fred McGriff.
Fred McGriff. Donaldson's a good name. Fred McGriff is the main name I was thinking of. He's the guy that performed really well. You know who actually had really good WAR for both teams too? Yunel Escobar was actually very good for both teams. Well, serviceable for both teams. So, but yeah, it was not a triple play.
And if Riley were here, he'd want to make sure we shout out Troy Gloss, who did spend a season with Atlanta Braves as well, who was his favorite player.
He did have a season with us. Yeah. We have so many players that like were with us for like a rental and then took off during that 15-year stretch. So, yeah.
We have a question coming up about another player who might be a very short-term Atlanta Brave, but stay tuned that very, very shortly. I want to talk about that. I have one more question about the 92 World Series, and then we can move on. And this doesn't have anything to do about the game on the field. Why was the Canadian flag held upside down in that first game at Turner Field? What's with that? Come on now.
We should blame Ted Turner for that for sure. I think he was something else, and I think they'll deny it till the day they die. But there's no doubt that he's like, hang it upside down.
Get in their heads a little bit, right?
Yeah, get in their heads. I genuinely think he wanted to do it sideways, and they just wouldn't do it. He's like, well, do it upside down, and it looks like an accident. And so,
right,
because there was, I think there was all kinds of things that Turner had liberty to do because he basically owned half of baseball at that time. It felt like so. But yeah, it was an accident.
We'll take your word for it over here.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, Jesse, go ahead with your next one.
All right, another history question. What would be your Mount Rushmore of Atlanta Braves, either past or present?
Okay. So, I mean, the obvious name, which I never got to see him play, but you can't talk about Braves without talking about Hank Aaron, right? So, so Hank Aaron has to be on that list. For me, Chipper Jones is my number one. I grew up watching Chipper play. You can't see it; it's out of frame, but I have a signed baseball bat. I have rookie cards. Like Chipper's my guy, and Chipper will always be my guy. So I think that's a fair name to have up there. So, for me, I'm going to pick the guys I watch playing. Obviously Niekro was great. There's other names. Murphy was amazing, but I didn't get to watch those guys play hardly at all, if at all, if I even remember, because I'm not that old. So, I would have to say probably Maddox. And picking the last guy's tough, right? Because we have Smoltz, you have Glavin, you got fan favorite Javi Lopez that was with us for forever. But personally, it'd have to be Bobby Cox. So Bobby was
Blue Jays
such
connection. Bobby Cox.
Blue Jays connection. Absolutely. Like if it wasn't for Bobby, the Braves would not be the franchise that they are. Right. And I mean, Schnick grew up, came through the system with Bobby, and he's the manager he is because of Bobby. So I think that man's influence is far more impactful than any player for the most part has been. So I think that's what my Mount Rushmore would look like.
Great question. Love it. Riley McConnell would absolutely love the Chipper Jones reference. I think him and I had spent many times in the backyard just imitating his swing, switch hitter.
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Chipper was is still a character too. I mean, he's they do broadcasts that they bring him in. He's always fun to listen to, and his perspective. And I mean, the guy just knew how to play ball, and it was just a lot of fun to watch.
Yep, absolutely one of our favorites as well from the outside looking in. Andrew, my next question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you to watch Cavan Biggio strike out on pitches looking right down the middle of the plate?
Not excited. I'm excited about I mean, I'm just as excited to watch him as I have been to watch Whitfield, and any other player that we have that just is fill in the blank, really. White, who's that outfielder? Loreno. Anyways, like we're just throwing things against the wall and hopefully it sticks, right? And obviously there's a lot of pedigree and what was potential there. Who knows if we'll be able to, new place, maybe, that'll be good for him. But obviously he's had the ability, or he's had the chance to show that he can be around for a while. And judging by your judgment and the way you phrase the question, I'm even less excited than I was when I saw that we were able to get it. When I saw the trade, I was like, oh, cool. He's obviously, I mean, I don't think he even played a single, had a pro at bat for the Giants at all. Right. I mean,
I don't think so. No.
So he's just been down in AAA. So it's not anything we can be excited about. And again, it's just filling in holes because we just don't have the bodies. We just, the injuries have been terrible this year. So
I do want to say Alex Anthopoulos, very smart general manager. He sees something in Cavan Biggio. Hey, maybe there's something. Maybe he just needed a guy at second base. Who knows? But I said this on the day we traded Cavan Biggio to the Dodgers, and I'm going to bring it up again here now. I do feel like he does have that postseason moment in him somewhere. He's going to come off of the bench, get a pinch hit a double or something, and he's going to have a very big postseason moment. Andrew, for your sake, I hope it happens this season with the Atlanta Braves, so you never know. Jesse, fire away with your next one.
Just to unfortunately burst your bubble there about Biggio in the playoffs, he's ineligible for the.
Oh, that's right. He won't be on the playoff roster. Damn. Next season.
So, well, it'll tie into your question though too. It's like, if fully healthy, your roster, like Cunha and all of them are healthy, what active former Brave would you want to slot into that lineup?
What former Brave would I want into the active lineup? Is that the question?
Yeah, like any active like former Brave that's active today, can slide in one pitcher, one.
Oh, so player. Former active Brave. Okay, gotcha. Oof. So active. So to be honest with you, I'm very because it's more, it's the newer win, right? The last World Series we just won a couple of years ago. Jock Peterson was a big piece of that, and he's playing really well this year again too. And I think fully healthy, right? Now, obviously, right now it doesn't do anything for us, but fully healthy, he just adds another threat deeper down the lineup that you still have to worry about. And he was And I have a co-host that doesn't like the locker room guy type of scenario, but I mean, you can't argue with some guys just bring that moxie and that type of approach to the game that really is contagious that other guys pick up on. And that's what Jock is. I mean, everywhere he goes, he's able to rally those locker rooms, and you see it really translate to the field. So I'd say Jock.
You know, you never hear about a team that has a bad locker room when you're winning 100 games a season. You know,
1,000%.
Right?
Yeah, 1,000%.
Winning solves everything. Absolutely,
it does.
All right,
it does.
I have one more question, and I'm genuinely curious, and I have no idea if you're going to know the answer to this. But if you don't know, Andrew, I work in a casino, and so we take money laundering very seriously in our sort of work here. So I want to ask you, how come every single time the Atlanta Braves have a press conference for an extension or a player they sign, 1% of their salary is donated to the Atlanta Braves Foundation? What in the world is going on here? And is this some money laundering scheme, or what is going on here?
You know, it's yes. No, so I to be quite honest with you, there's a few things that work in that. Obviously, we're trying to leave a positive imprint, but also we still get away with the tomahawk chop and that kind of stuff. So we have to make sure that we support through the Braves Foundation a lot of different things, which includes those tribes in the area too, right? So it's just we do what we can, and I think it's literally something that's in basically every contract, like you said. Like, we're going to pay you this much, but you need to donate this much too, just so that because everyone wants to leave a positive impact. Also too, we're you can sell and trade the Braves in the stock market, just saying. So, you might want to look into that.
There's something fishy going on here. Jesse and I were talking before the show. It's like, if we just find out this is just some fund to give Juan Soto when he becomes a free agent and be like, here you go, you can have all the 1% of the free agency dollars,
I wish, one of the things that, I thought it was going to be a different question, because we tend to fleece our players when it comes to contracts. Yes. I mean, we have stolen Acuna and Albies when it comes to how much we pay them for a year for that long of a contract. Riley's the same way. Like, we're really not throwing a lot of money at anybody. It would be something else if Soto came in and we decided to pay him, the type of contract that he demands, because we don't have the ability to do that. So, now that you've used that theory, though, I hope you're right, because that'd be really cool. So,
if Juan Soto does end up a Brave, remember that,
I mean, I'd love for him to become a Brave and take a huge pay cut and be like, I just love the team. I just want to see a superstar take a massive pay cut because they just want to win. But that's not how it works. So
I do want to say, because you sparked you sparked something there. It's that when Alex Anthopoulos signed all these players very young and gave them that money in the long term, they are taking a chance. Like, I know Crystal mentioned Evan White, who they gave a big contract to, who never panned out. John Singleton was the first one. Who's the Phillies prospect? Was it Scott Kingery, who signed a big deal early in spring training the 1 year and never panned out? So sometimes that could happen, and it can set your franchise back a bit. But hey, if you sign a guy cheap and he turns into literally what Ronald Acuna has been or what Austin Riley has been, then you're set up for a long time. And the Blue Jays talk a lot about, when they get into contract extensions, about how we need shared risk for both the player and the organization. It seems like Atlanta is more on we will take in more risk if it means we can do good things. And I don't think it's an accident that Atlanta is perennially in the playoffs and the Blue Jays have one division title in the last 31 freaking years. So, just bringing that.
I mean, it's been fun to watch, right? Because you have guys that have, because traditionally, I mean, we've had like Frank Core, we've had Hayward, and Jason's had a good career, but he had a very strong first 4 years and then really kind of fell off. Now he's just kind of a fill-in guy. Frank Core had 1.5 good years and then he completely fell off. So, we've had really good talent. And so you see them invest in the Albies and the Acuna. You're like, okay, I get it, because man, they're performing well, but what happens in year 3 and year 4? And it's worked out for us, and that's been fun. And it definitely feels like, okay, we're stealing these guys, but you're right. I mean, eventually one day we're going to make a move and it's not going to pan out. But so far it has, I mean, other than the fact that Ronnie just can't stay healthy, that poor guy,
that's tough.
Well, he plays like a freight train. I mean, that's part of the problem, right? The kid just goes at 110% at everything. And so that your bodies aren't really made for that, even when you're young and invulnerable. So
All right, and Jesse, did you have any more questions? Because I have one more to wrap it up, but if you have one more, fire away.
What player, like former Brave, when they left, hurt the most for you?
Oh, this is easy. This one's easy. So, and the reason it's easy is because it was in the time where there were two dominant teams. There are the Braves in the National League, and there's the Yankees in the American League. And I remember where I was when I got the ESPN alert that Brian McCann had signed with the New York Yankees.
Wow.
And so Brian was, again, home talent, like came up through the system, hometown hero, like was a consistent piece of our baseball team for a very long time. And the Yankees were the damn Yankees, and they were paying players more than anyone else, and they were winning all the time. And when they were just they were absolutely, they're in your division. Okay, I'm so sorry. I hate the Yankees, and it's more prevalent then. Yeah, it was more prevalent then because we kept losing World Series to them, right? And so seeing that McCann went to the evil empire was it felt like a stab in the back. And I think that's why it hurt so much, because you're like, what? Of all the teams, you're going to go to the Yankees? And I just remember being embarrassing because I was in a restaurant and I saw it, and I literally out loud was like, "You're freaking kidding me!" Like I was not a happy camper. So yeah, that's an easy one. I remember that one like was yesterday. So
would not have guessed that. It's a very interesting, interesting one. But for fandom, we all have that moment or that team or that one player that stuck with us. For me, it was when we traded Vernon Wells. I remember I was in high school. I was hungover, and all this talk was, well, we can't do shit until we get rid of Vernon Wells' contract. I was hungover as shit, eating an Egg McMuffin at McDonald's. I grabbed the newspaper at 8:20 in the morning. First thing I saw was we traded his contract. I screamed, "Fuck yeah!" in the restaurant, and I remember some seniors looking at me. And so it's wild that we have those moments about being in baseball and whatnot. Andrew, I have one more question. And if you look at the standings right now, the Atlanta Braves are in a dogfight. They're currently tied with the New York Mets for the last and final wildcard spot. They're a game behind Arizona, who's playing right now, and then they're 2 games behind San Diego. So things are a dogfight in that NL wildcard picture. And hey, I don't know about you if you know this, but the Mets had Grimace throw at a first pitch. So destiny is clearly on their side here right now. And all that stuff. So I don't know if you looked at the schedule, but coming to the Rogers Center for the next series is the New York Mets to face our Toronto Blue Jays. So as you, a Braves fan who really wants to see your team get into the playoffs here, what would you give, whether it's off your roster or from your personal life or whatever it may be, to guarantee the Blue Jays sweep the Mets this week? What would it be?
Okay. All right. So I have, hold on a second. So I'm a bit of a nerd.
Okay. Aren't we all?
And so I have right here. I thought about this. I have a Greg Capullo signed Batman #1, 9.6 graded. Got this a few years ago. I actually got the comics as they were coming out, and then Capullo was at a con that I was near, and so got his signature. Got it confirmed, all that kind of stuff. I would literally sell this if you guys swept them, because we need, obviously, the fighting. The New York Grimaces are unstoppable right now. It feels like, and if we make the playoffs, we're going to limp into the playoffs. And that's not a fun place to be as a fan, right? To go, I mean, we're here, but we didn't really earn it towards the end. And, it's one of those things that we're hoping momentum will carry us winning. We just have to win series, but also the Mets have to lose. So this is the first thing that I thought of, but I mean, you guys can have Whitfield if you want.
I've already had
I had a friend who was trying to get me to be like, why don't you watch more Phillies games? They're so fun. You should watch the Phillies. And I'm like, buddy, I've seen enough Whit Merrifield for one lifetime. I think I'm good.
I do not want to watch the Phillies, as you can probably understand. So I mean, look, good for that team. They turned out the team that the entire year, whereas the last couple of years it's kind of been down the stretch, and in the playoffs they've been a different team. So I'm interested to see what happens in the playoffs, because as the team that has been the dominant throughout the year, like the Braves have been the monster, and then they get in the playoffs and they just fizzle out. So my hope is we see that from the Phillies, and they just play like garbage when it matters. and then hopefully, we do some upsetting. I don't expect us to really make a run because we just don't have the bodies to do it. But I would like to be there because we can play spoiler. You run out Sale and Freed and Lopez 1, 2, 3. We can win any of those 3-game series, and even the 5-game series. We can beat anybody with those guys pitching the way they're pitching right now. And so I would love to play spoiler, and that's really what I'm going for. So I need you guys, the Blue Jays, to really come through for us so that we don't have to continue to battle for the Mets. Our series against them is going to be huge too. But I tell you what, I don't have a Blue Jays hat, but if I did, and by the way, I love the Blue Jays. I love your logo. I love the City Connects. I think the Blue Jays have one of the better just overall look when it comes to uniforms, and I would don that hat with pride for the next series as I become a temporary Blue Jays fan. So give them hell, boys. Give them hell.
Make us a deal then. If the Blue Jays do sweep the New York Mets, you can keep your comic, maybe, unless Jesse, I don't know, unless you really want the comic. But you got to buy a Blue Jays hat, and I want you to post a photo on one of your socials with the Blue Jays hat.
Okay, 1,000%. If you guys sweep the Mets, I will buy a hat. And I'll let you pick the hat. I don't care. I will buy a Blue Jays hat if you sweep the Mets. 100%. I'm in.
Jesse, you're more the hat guy on the show, so that's your job. You got to go in and pick the hat for him to get.
I love it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all that we had for you here. Andrew, this has been very nice. Thank you for joining. Jesse, did you have anything else you wanted to shout his way?
No, thank you for joining us. It was a great time.
Yeah. All right, Andrew, the floor is yours then. What do you want to shout out? Shout out the pod? Shout out anything else?
Yeah.
Shout out more comic book? The floor is yours.
Listen, thank you guys so much for having me. Again, I'm half of the Coach's Sons podcast. You can find us on all of the platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google Play, all that kind of stuff. We also sometimes post our interviews and stuff on YouTube. Not a lot of plays there, but we are there if you want to see our pretty faces again. But again, it's Coach's Sons podcast. You can go www.coachessonspodcast.com and find all of our links there. So again, thank you guys so much. It's been really fun getting to know other podcasters in the realm. And, one of the things that Chris and I talk about is like kind of our goal is to build that baseball community. Right. And you guys are a part of that community. And so it's just really good to get to know you guys and talk ball. And cause that's what we love to do. And that's what this is all about. So thank you for having me.
At the end of the day, we're all passionate baseball fans, and we're sharing our love for the game of baseball. So what's not to love? I can vouch for the Coach's Sons podcast, by the way. They just did an interview with Aaron Hughes, who is a D-backs writer. Listen to the whole thing. Some good, it's good information there. I don't think I've missed an episode yet. So the fact you guys haven't blown up yet is, I don't know what the hell's going on with that, but it won't be long, my guy. So give it time. Would recommend all that stuff.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Anyways, that'll do it for episode here today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and for everybody watching us live on all of our platforms. Please make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We've got a lot of content up in the booth here. We've just got into graphic design, so things are coming here. We've got a lot of big things, and it's going to be a big off season for us. So make sure you follow us on all the socials and leave a 5-star review and all that good stuff. For Andrew Phillips, for Jesse Turiso, I am Jesse Burrell. Thank you all for joining us. Let's go Blue Jays. Big sweep coming against the Mets, I heard.
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's get a good win. And I guess we are also rooting for the Atlanta Braves in the NL as well. We will see you guys on Wednesday to recap that sweep coming against the Mets. And until then, let's go Blue Jays.
Thank you, boys.
Well, have a good one.